Welcome to Tabletop Titans, and thanks for joining us on our very first live book review. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new Psychic Awakening Book 1, Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, it's a really lengthy title.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm like, what's the subtitle and the main title? For those of you who don't know, this is essentially a Vigilus-like release. It's going to be the first of several books that release new lore and new rules, essentially updating the game.
Have they said how many books?
No, they haven't. I've heard there's a lot of rumors flying right now of at least 3. Probably 3.
There's a lot of armies to get through, and I heard that there's something for every faction.
Yeah, and that's something that has been confirmed. There's going to be lots of updates for everything. Obviously, it's rotating around psychic armies, but I think that's also a perfect opportunity for non-psychic armies to maybe get something
The way I read into it was that it's a psychic event happening in the story that impacts everyone, but not always in a psychic way.
Exactly.
Because I heard a lot of people saying, Necrons and Tau are going to get psychers. That's just not going to happen. But psychic things can still impact them.
Exactly. And we are seeing some changes to how armies are approaching psychic. We'll talk about smites and everything. Some really interesting changes. So to give you guys an idea of what we want to do today, we're going to give you a broad overview of the book. We want to talk about some of our things that we think are the most interesting. We can't cover everything, but we're going to talk about things that are competitively interesting, some things that are just cool, and kind of highlight that to you. And what we're going to do is we're going to go section by section as it is in the book. We'll start off with the new Exarch abilities, then we'll go into the successor chapter stuff, and then we'll get into all the Drukhari and Ynnari things and stuff like that.
Yeah, so as you've heard, this book is primarily about the Assyriani, but it does not have all of the different Eldar. It's missing Harlequins, unfortunately. I think a lot of people were surprised about that. So it does have Craftworld Eldar, it has Drukhari, and it has Ynnari.
That's right.
And there is really not that much for Ynnari. We'll touch on it briefly, but the main meat of it is for Craftworld Eldar, and then there's a little bit for Drukhari, I would say, as well.
It's a much smaller slice, but if you're a Harlequin player, there actually is lore on them. So definitely an interesting book as far as narrative, if you're interested in seeing how this moves the story forwards, because that's definitely something that they're trying to do. Still worth checking out for that.
And there's some unique Eldar-focused missions, which, as a Harlequin player, you could still play a part in.
Exactly. Well, and also I think they're one of the more interesting factions for Ynnari.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and dive on in. Let's see what we can do. So as I mentioned, we want to start off with the Exarch abilities. So previously, every Aspect Warrior has an ability that's associated with their Exarch. I think a lot of people didn't really realize this. It kind of just seemed like something that was on the actual data sheet. But it actually did have an association with the actual character.
I really love what they're doing with this now. They're taking the Exarchs and they're turning them into mini characters with a lot of flavor. And in the fluff, the Exarchs are a big deal. Right? Like, they're not just sergeants in a unit. They're really flavorful characters that are important and powerful. And so the ability to, giving you the option to customize their ability and transform how that Aspect Warrior unit works, it's a really great idea. They haven't executed it perfectly with every single one of these Aspect Warriors, but for several of them, they've done an amazing job. And the idea of being able to give 2 powers, which every single one of these Aspect Warriors has the ability to do, right? And so that's a really just amazing idea, I think.
Well, especially for some of them, because for a couple of these units, that is kind of one of the signature abilities that they have. That'll be super important. And the other thing that we should mention is when you actually select these. So it is sort of Vigilus style in the sense that if you want to select one of these new powers, you have to do that in the list building stage. They actually do state that explicitly. But the ability to actually regain your old ability, the one that's in the codex, that does happen during the actual game. So for example, the Shining Spear's Exarch is rerolling to wound against monsters, I believe. And that's great. If you are going to be fighting someone that actually has that, that might be worth to say, hey, I'm going to spend the point and regain that. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility. If you could just choose anyone in the beginning, you'll see. Some of them are amazing.
Yeah, but they're very situational.
Exactly.
So that would have been very powerful. So in your more casual games where you know what you're up against, or in your local store where you're facing the same kinds of things, then you could pick some of those more situational ones. But if you're taking it to a tournament, you're going to have to pick something that's broadly applicable. One of the things that I think is almost everybody universally loves the idea of Aspect Warriors. They wish they could play lots of Aspect Warriors, see them on the table. But in practice, they all are just a little too fragile for their cost, right? It's not that they can't do things, right? Like, most of them can fight okay, or they have unique abilities, but they're all just too fragile for how expensive. And none of this, or very little of this, solved that problem. Right? So I don't think this is going to make you see Aspect Warriors more because they're better. I think it might make you see aspect warriors more because they're new and fresh and fun. And I think a lot of these do make them a lot more fun.
Yes, absolutely.
But they don't really make them better.
No, not really. Well, we're also seeing this effect where the aspect warriors that are already good kind of just got better.
They got better.
And the ones that weren't so good didn't really get enough of a boost, I think.
Yeah.
I think they have cool abilities.
Yeah.
But I don't know that competitively you'll see that.
Okay.
So with the first one, again, we're just going to go in order with the fire dragons.
Yeah.
The most interesting candidate, I think, was just the swift step. It's when you advance, it's 3d6 and you pick the highest. Because again, these things are not very durable, so that just makes them much more reliable as far as trying to deliver them. Just run up, you're getting no penalties because you're Eldar.
Yep.
That was the only one that really popped out.
Yeah. So obviously fire dragons, they're a unit with melta guns, and that's really all there is to it. They're a unit with melta guns. They're really easy to kill. They're pretty expensive. Yeah. But you know, they can advance and shoot with multi-guns, which is pretty good. And I have to say, when I first started playing 8th edition, one of the people I played against had a bunch of fire dragons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he always used to jump out of wave serpents. And honestly, I had no idea what to do against these things. They would just keep jumping out and just destroying my whole army in one turn. And they wouldn't die next turn because I would just lose that turn. So I thought these things were broken. I thought they were so good, but I just wasn't screening. But I was terrified of fire dragons for like 6 months. Yeah. Because this guy just kept smashing me with them.
I imagine. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I had like perfect targets just in range. Yeah. And I was like, they're so fast. How can I stop them?
It was very generous of you.
Yes, it was. Yeah. But now you can actually get them that little bit faster. Yeah. And they do typically get the job done if, you know, a whole unit of Melta, they hit pretty well. And obviously they win well.
Exactly.
But you should expect to lose them.
Yeah, and that's why I highlighted this one, because I think it just helps them get in, get their one thing done, and then they're going to die. Right?
Yeah, maybe they can fire and fade to get into a building if there's a perfect position.
And this is one of those abilities that, while it's on the Exarch, it actually helps the whole unit. And for me personally, those were the things that I was looking at. Yeah. You know, it's cute when you can like get a reroll 1 on your Exarch or whatever, but like I'm looking for a way to help the whole unit. So absolutely, that's them. Dire Avengers got a couple interesting ones, I think.
I think one of the biggest buffs.
Yes,
in my
absolutely.
opinion. Yeah, and Dire Avengers are already on the cusp of being really good.
They are. They really are.
Yeah,
and especially with the things that are changing in the meta, with deep striking, Guardians are not quite as juicy as they used to be. They have a longer range with Dire Avengers, and we'll also talk later on about how they might pair well with some of these successor traits. Right. So one of them we want to talk about is Bladestorm. Yes. Bladestorm essentially makes it so that when they're rolling to hit, any 6s generate a second hit. So, you know, otherwise known as
and they've got a lot
hits.
of shots.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So they've got a lot of chances to actually proc that ability.
Exactly.
And their shots, you know, they're solid shots, shuriken shots. They can do some real damage. And as we'll see, when combined with some of those successor abilities, they become pretty deadly.
I think they'd be super interesting. I wish I had more of them to just try it out, because I think it could be something cool there.
So what ability is this replacing if you take this one? Is this the Overwatch?
That's a good question. I hope not, because that would be
Yeah. So you have to keep in mind, whenever you're taking one of these new abilities, you're losing an ability. And a lot of times, as we said, this isn't an ability you're even thinking about that you're losing. Right. But you do lose something. You can pay 1 CP to keep it, though. Yeah. Right? And in some of these cases, could be worth it. Some of these Exarch abilities are so good that you really would want to keep that. And the Dire Avengers are, you know, if you're trying to power up a big unit, it might be worth it. It might be worth the CP. But if you're taking minimum squads, that could get really expensive really fast, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which one does it say? What is it called? Just because I'm here.
Let's see.
These abilities. Exemplar of the Avengers Shrine.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not sure. So this is the thing. It's just an ability on their sheet. It's hard to see what you're losing.
Well,
right?
Like I was saying earlier, a lot of the times, like people, like even myself, I don't know which one's part of the Exarch, right? But now it's like, oh, by the way, you can replace those. So that's them. The rest of them, did you see any highlights? I saw Avenging Strike, which is if you lose a model in the unit, then you get +1 to hit and wound, right?
I was trying to think if there was an easy way to kill one of your own models.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is always a funny place to be in. Like, how can I kill one model from every unit across my army? The problem is, you know, they're not that tough. No. So if somebody's trying to target them, they're going to die.
And I don't think you can run them in big squads either.
It's scary to do that, but if you are paying for some of these upgrades, you want them in bigger squads, but at the same time, they become really juicy targets in big squads, right?
It was so tempting. Like, that looks amazing. +1 to hit and wound, that's incredible, but I think it's just too... You don't want anything that relies on your units dying, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Now, this could be a crazy suggestion, but they can take those heavy weapon platforms, right?
The Dire Avengers, can they? I thought only
no,
Guardians could
just
do
the
that.
Guardians.
Just the
Oh,
Guardians.
Okay, because I was thinking maybe
Yeah.
there's some way to get yourself to kill the heavy weapons
Yeah,
platform,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you get that +1 to hit and wound.
Yeah.
Could be
Exactly.
juicy.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I think that's just Guardians.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that make it just not quite good enough.
Yeah.
So moving on to a fan favorite, not
Dark
really.
Reapers.
One of the most hated aspect warriors,
Yeah.
the Dark Reapers.
They get a bad name now because they're
Yeah.
overpriced now.
They're very expensive.
For what they do, and
Yeah.
so much indirect fire,
Yeah.
especially all the Thunderfire cannons around right now. They just, wipe the squad in half every time they shoot. It's pretty scary.
It's yeah, they're. I think they could use a point reduction, but still a great unit. So I have a few that I think are interesting. Rapid shot. This is +1 shots, so you get an additional shot with the
Yeah.
X-Arc. It's a weird one because you don't really want this for the Tempest. This is just if
Exactly.
you're trying to get some more tank killing.
Yeah.
I don't
If you're
know.
trying to go
What do you
from 2
think?
to 3 shots or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
But you're almost always going to take that Tempest launcher because it's like the only indirect that you have.
Exactly.
So for me, that's the pain on this one. I don't think that one works super well. The one I keep hearing is Focus Fire, which is the ability to target a character.
Yep.
But it's only within 18 inches.
Exactly.
And these guys are typically trying to stay at their max range, right? Like that's one of the ways they stay alive is staying at max range. But it could be cool. Unfortunately, you just don't have enough shots to kill a character, even with a Tempest launcher.
Right.
It would take a couple turns to kill a character.
So that's why I've been sort of in my head playing with ideas of, well, okay, what about min-maxing these squads? If you have just minimum squads of Reapers, then you're getting 66 shots. Then that becomes interesting. But you do have to get close. Maybe if they're Wave Serpents.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe someone can find a way to play this in a way that makes it powerful and
So you're
interesting.
basically saying if you had 3 squads and all 3 X-Arcs could target characters.
Yeah. You'd have to play them very aggressively, which is again
Scary.
Yeah, they're so expensive.
Yeah, they could jump out of a Wave Serpent or something maybe.
Yeah.
It'd be worth testing out, right?
Yeah,
It'd be worth
yeah,
testing out, especially
exactly.
in combination. Eldar typically have snipers to begin with, so anything that plinks a few more wounds, it could be interesting. As a free ability, it could be worth checking out.
Yeah, and there are some armies which maybe aren't as prevalent currently, but things like Chaos Demons are going to come towards you with their characters. Orcs are going to come towards you with their characters. In fact, Orcs I think would be, this is a nasty one against Orcs. Again, if you could pick this before the game, absolutely. Snipe out that pain boy, that weird boy. I think that's great. I really like Reign of Death, and that just lets you reroll the number of shots with a Tempest launcher. I think for me, that's the one that I would basically pick
That's the
every
one you're
time.
going for?
I think so. It's just the best all-comers sort of thing. Again, unless I was able to really test Focus Fire and see that it does work.
So you're losing the crack shot ability, which is the rerolling ones on your X-Arc.
Yeah.
For the Dark Reapers. And unless you're going for the character one, to me, getting an extra shot is not necessarily as good as rerolling ones.
I think there's other ways you can do it. I think often you're guiding these Reapers, or if you're playing BL10, you're giving them basically guide, or if you're Yannari, you can just Ward of the Phoenix to reroll ones. I think there's so many ways that often when I've played them, I waste that buff already. So this is fantastic. This is taking something I've never really used and giving me something that's much better.
Yeah.
So, Howling Banshees.
Actually, just before we go into the Banshees, I just wanted to jump back. The Dire Avengers, the only thing they lose is the 4-up invuln on the X-Arc.
Oh,
That's what they're losing.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that's nothing. Because if you're just down, if that's all you're down to, typically you don't want to kill the X-Arc first.
Right.
And so if that's what you're down to, at that point, you're in trouble anyways. I know you could try to tank some shots on him, but it's a 4-up, not a 3-up.
Well, that's the thing. I think if you're going to replace it, you're almost never going to pay that extra CP to then regain the 4-up.
No, you don't want the 4-up.
Then you're saying, okay, I'm going to take this ability,
and then
I'm
try
also
to
going
kill
to
him.
tank with it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I think the Dire Avengers, everything in that list is almost better than the 4-up.
I think I agree.
But you're, as you said, never going to pay for the buff. So let's jump over. We're onto the Banshees.
Yeah. So Howling Banshees are an absolutely gorgeous unit. I've loved them in every edition.
This is the one we all hoped got a lot better.
Yes.
Right? Because these new models, if you haven't seen these new models, they're amazing.
They're gorgeous.
I'm going to buy this kit.
Yeah.
And never even play them. I just want this. I just want these models.
Yeah, totally.
And the Banshees actually were already interesting models, but they're a lot better now.
Yeah, no, they're really, really great. And so the question is, to me personally, they've always been borderline. There's a couple things that make them not as great, mostly on the defensive side. Toughness 3, and I mean, that's basically it. 4-up save, combined with the fact that they're only strength 3. So those are kind of my complaints normally, and I think with a couple changes, they could become really good.
I also never thought they had enough attacks.
Yeah.
Right? They look like they're supposed to be some crazy whirlwind unit, and it's just not. It's 2 attacks on their profile. And power swords in 8th edition are awful, right?
Yeah.
Because so many things either didn't have an armor save, in which case AP1 would have done it, or they have invuln saves.
Right.
And a power sword with strength 3? What are you doing with that?
I don't know why they don't have +1 or reroll to wound or something.
Something.
I was looking for that. We didn't really get it, unfortunately. They have you can take graceful avoidance now, which is almost, it's like the right idea, but in the wrong direction. It essentially gives the unit a 5-up invuln, which is great. That makes them tougher, but not really against the things that are going to kill them anyways.
Yeah.
They will die to Space Marines. They will die to any infantry that they
I
don't just automatically kill.
I can't think of anything that can't kill them.
Exactly. So
Like your Grots can kill.
Yeah.
Grots can kill these guys.
It's the right idea, but it's totally the wrong direction. You know, if it was some other defensive buff, almost anything other than that, right?
The Exarch ability that they come with out of the box is War Shout, which is -1 to hit the unit.
It's better.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Like it's not enough to keep them alive.
No, but it's the right idea.
It might be enough for one to survive. Maybe just the Exarch.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is the way to go now.
Yeah.
So in regards to that, I think the other ones that are interesting for them are really just ones that buff the Exarch. And I haven't done the math on this, but they basically say, okay, we're going to double down on this character, make them hit harder, and just forget about the rest of the ladies. You know, maybe I think was it Piercing Strike. You can get a 3 damage Executioner attack. Your -1 attack, but your +3 strength and then 3 flat damage.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's okay. Yeah, it's fun.
It's pretty cool, right?
You'll get a solid 1 round of fighting out of that.
I know.
And it's tough. You got it. You know, you don't get the rerolls up there. It's hard to get the rerolls up with them. For me, the Banshees were always about take 1 small squad, and in most games they do nothing, and then 1 out of every 5 games you really need to shut down a unit. So Overwatch, either to tag it with something else or to wrap it. And they're still good for that.
Yeah.
But that's how you need to think of them as. They're not like some combat mastermind unit, and none of this changes that.
No. In my heart, I'd love to see a Inari player really go all out on these. I think it could be done because you are getting extra attacks potentially, extra to hit maybe. But I think the story here is Howling Banshees. They're really cool, but they didn't quite get enough.
Yeah, and while we're talking about Howling Banshees, maybe we should talk about Jane Czar.
Yes, let's do that.
So, they previewed Jane Czar a lot. New model, Phoenix Lord.
Love the model.
Everyone is really excited. Okay, the model's great. Phoenix Lords are amazing.
Yeah.
Right, the whole idea of them. But in the book, most of them are pretty lackluster, right? Yeah. A couple of them are almost playable.
Yeah.
Right?
We've seen Magan Rod.
Magan Rod's okay.
He's appeared in a few competitive lists.
But they're only okay, and they're not the standout characters they're supposed to be. So I was really excited that they were going to fix that, and I would say they fixed it with the model.
Yes.
But they didn't fix it with the rules. Jane Czar is fairly underwhelming.
She is. I don't know why a Phoenix Lord can't afford an invuln save, but apparently it's just too much.
That's right. Yeah, she's got a 2-up armor save, which cool. She's got Undying God armor. 2-up save is good, but yeah, an invuln would be nice. Just like a normal guard character has a 5-up invuln.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
he has a refractor field. So this is sad. And also, she doesn't actually fight that well. Only 4 base attacks on the profile. And they tried to make up for it for this idea where you get an attack for every model within 2 inches. This requires your opponent to deliberately pile in and surround you. And then not kill you. Yeah. Which, by the way, they will. If they surrounded you, right?
If there's enough models to make it worthwhile to do that
then you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Like if a bunch of orc boys piled around Jane Czar, she'd be dead.
Right. She doesn't get to fight at all.
Yeah. And maybe because of the 2-up save, she would tank it because
maybe
they don't have AP.
And you could lightning fast. So,
yes.
I
guess you could put all your army CP into her, and then she'd kill 4 more or something.
Right.
But so I'm very disappointed in her. I really hope that they improve her and all the Phoenix Lords. I want the Phoenix Lords to be so crazy that they get the commander limitation of 1 per detachment or some rule where it's take 1 Phoenix Lord per army because they're so good.
Well, they should be like the Primarchs of the Eldar, right?
They should be really
be that
good.
really cool centerpiece hero that is just awesome.
They should at least be able to stand up to a Space Marine captain.
Well,
right?
Honestly, and that's what I was thinking when I was looking at it. I'm like, well, a 2-up save is nothing to joke at, but Thunderhammers, those things will just cut straight through.
Yeah, she's got 6 wounds, that perfect two hits, 2 hammers.
So
that's a shame about Jane Czar and really the Banshees in general, because that was one of the big kind of new model releases
Yeah,
here.
I'm gonna get some, but
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna paint them.
Yeah.
Put them on the shelf. I'll come up with my own fluff rules where we like double her attacks profile.
yeah, there you
and
go.
then
Perfect.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, the fact that the models are interesting and that's cool, so they're great for like narrative games and things like that, especially with some of the missions, which I think we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But yeah, competitively.
Unfortunately. All right, so what's the next Aspect Wars?
Swooping Hawks. I really like Swooping Hawks.
Yeah.
I think.
They've got the weight of fire. And the fact that they can jump in on the board and move around.
See, for me, that's the main thing. Is just they're great scoring. They're great for playing ITC if you play that. They just jump in and they can't kill things. They have the grenades. So I just like them generally as a unit.
Lots of different play out of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. They're one of the Aspect Warriors I see the most on the table.
Yeah, actually, and they fill out fast attack slots. So yeah, they're really great. We have a few interesting ones, I think. One of them, suppressing fire. After you fire an Overwatch with the X-Arc, then you add 2 inches to the charge distance of the enemy. I think that's great. That's interesting. They want to stay out of combat. A lot of these abilities that we'll look at later on rely on basically surviving combat, which is and their defensive buffs generally, right? And I like this one because it's not that. It doesn't get them into that situation that they don't want to be in.
Because they don't really survive combat.
They don't. They won't.
Yeah.
I'm still skeptical of them not just getting shot down, but you know what? If you're a late talk, if you're kind of off to the side, and that's generally how you play them, is where you can't really see them, can't really shoot them, and you have to send in someone to like charge them in melee. So I think that one's actually pretty interesting, just helping them do what they already do.
Yeah.
Same regard, evade gives the whole unit a 5+ invuln. Also interesting.
I think it's good.
And then the last one, swooping barrage.
This is my favorite one.
This one's pretty cool. This basically just gives you a +1 on your grenade rolls, right?
Yeah.
So when you come down, or when you fly over a unit, you roll a dice for each guy in the Swooping Hawks unit, and every 6 is a mortal wound.
But now it's every 5.
It's 5.
I actually think that's really, really big for me.
Yeah.
Because that, those wounds, they add up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I really want to point out that the ability they're losing is this Herald of Victory ability, which is really just the +1 leadership to units within 3 inches. So they're giving your other Eldar units within 3 inches +1 leadership. Like, come on.
No. Nothing
Not interesting. So anything you take is better than that one.
You wouldn't pay the CP to get back?
I would not. I would not. So I think these are all a win. This was already a playable unit. Got a little better.
This is a big winner.
Sure. This is a good one.
Yeah. All right. Another personal favorite for me, and I think a lot of people agree, is the Predator, aka Striking Scorpions.
Yeah.
Great models. I've loved them again in every edition.
Some of the nicest sculpts still.
So cool.
Yeah, they are.
I have some of the really, really old ones, and they still look awesome. But the new ones are really sick. So let's see. A couple defensive things. One of them is Stalker, and that gives them an additional, well, I shouldn't say additional, gives them a -1 to hit when you're shooting at them.
Yeah.
Again, I think it really would be good with like a late talk where now you talk about -2. Then they could be interesting in the same way as Swooping Hawks.
Agreed.
You know?
Yep.
Withdraw. So this is one, I have a big question mark on this. It is at the end of the fight phase. They may fall back up to 6 inches. 2 complaints about it. I wish it was just like the Vigilist attachment for the Windrider host, where after they fight, they fall back 6 inches.
Yeah.
Which is like,
that'd be so cool.
Would be still, I think, reasonable because there's a lot of factors and you can only move 6, you can't advance, all these things. But it's at the end of the fight phase. So they have to now survive. And again, we come back to that problem of being toughness 3.
They're not the most survivable.
No. They're in power armor, so it's a 3-up, but I don't think they'll survive. So that's that. And then the last one is Scorpion Sting. It's just like the grenade pack. This essentially gives them a
helping
+1
their
on
Mandy
that.
blasters.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah.
And I think what you're giving up here is the sustained attack, which was something that just, I think, on 6s, it gave an extra attack.
Oh, yeah, the exploding 6s.
Yeah, the exploding 6s for your X-Arc. And that's not too big. So I think all of these are more interesting.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is the ability to fall back, you could always be falling forward, right? Imagine you charge something that really can't fight you, like a Rhino.
Yeah.
And you're touching it, and then you get to get some extra movement.
Exactly.
As an Eldar player, you know the value of movement. You know the value of being able to get around the board really fast. And so if you think of it more that way, right? Not as like, I'm going to go and hit some Space Marines, survive, and run away. That makes less sense. It also, if someone just tries to pile into you at the end of a combat phase on their turn, now you could fall back, shoot, and charge yourself. That's really interesting. And if you're taking a slightly bigger squad of them, it means they can't just be shut down like that. Or you don't have to pay CP to reactivate them, which it's expensive to fall back and shoot as an Eldar,
It is
right?
a lot,
It's 2 CP,
and plus you want to use that on other things, right?
Exactly. So I'm into it because you're not really losing anything, and it's making them a little more playable.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is, again, this isn't a super playable unit to begin with, but the fact that they infiltrate can give you some play, right? It's a unit that can pop up, even just hide if they want to. I've seen, surprisingly enough, I've seen people use them.
Yeah.
And I've seen people use them as long as they don't overvalue what they can do.
Yeah.
As long as they stay within the realm of what this unit can accomplish, they're typically happy with it.
Yeah.
When they try to like outflank and go in and make a big charge and shoot, and they're like, oh, it didn't kill anything, that's when they get sad. it's when they really just try to do some little tactical play with it, and it can work out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point to bring up is, in a weird way, it feels like these should be these melee monsters, and sort of there's that narrative about it.
Yeah.
But they're not. And so
They're not.
It's, what
The
else can
Exarch's
they
actually
do?
okay.
The Exarch is.
Yeah,
and
but
I
the
guess
rest are not.
everything kind of comes with that caveat that the Exarchs are good, right?
Yeah.
But
The whole unit was the Exarchs.
Play to these other
that
strengths.
needs to be playable
Oh
units.
my god, amazing. Yeah, that's another weird thing with, these are creatures that are thousands of years old.
Yeah.
And but yeah, definitely. I think there's some interesting stuff with that, and I would love to put some striking scorpions back on the table.
Yeah.
I just want to run an aspect warrior army. That'd be amazing.
I'm
So cool.
really dreaming of the day that they redo the whole line.
Yeah.
And really what got me dreaming of that, if you've seen the Ranger that they put in Blackstone Fortress.
Yes.
That Ranger is
so
so amazing.
cool.
And then you see these new Howling Banshees. You're like,
Right.
if they put their effort into a whole new Eldar line, it would be the most beautiful army.
That would be gorgeous.
So I'm holding out for that.
I'm curious to see how that comes because it is one of the biggest lines, right? It actually does compete with some of the
Space Marines and
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Probably
Shining Spears?
Shining Spears. In my mind, I was trying to rank them as far as hated aspect warriors, but these are a really, really fun unit to play.
I agree.
I love playing Shining Spears.
Yeah.
Fun, dynamic,
They
fast,
are
tough.
expensive, but they're still really good.
Yeah, even with all the nerfs and things like that brought them in line, if you play them well, they're still amazing.
Absolutely.
So they have some really interesting ones. One of them is Withdraw, similar to
Yes.
the same as the Scorpions.
Yeah.
They can fall
But
back
more
after the
valuable.
fight phase. It's huge.
More valuable on this unit, because
You know?
each unit can be super durable.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
This is one where you might even do it on when it's not your turn coming up, because they can tank a lot in shooting, and actually better than in close combat because of the way that their invuln save works.
That's right.
So there's a lot of cool applications with that. The next one is Swooping Dive, and that just gives the unit +1 to charge.
Oh, they need it.
Take a thing that they already want to do and make it better. Right?
Yeah, and actually, a lot of people used to deep strike them because you could deep strike then move them. They took that away, obviously, right?
Totally.
And so now they don't really make a reliable charge very easily. But there's a couple ways to do that now that get a little easier, and I think that's now going to become more viable with this unit because this unit can hit super hard, and if you can keep it safe and allow it to reliably charge.
Right.
Now it's a pretty interesting unit again. And this +1 to charge is good, and there's another way to get pluses to charge in this book. And so
I think deep striking could be back in an interesting way.
yeah, especially for this unit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see, the last one I had marked, Skilled Rider. So what this does is it gives just the Exarch a 3-up invulnerable. Now, why I think this is interesting is because very often when you're playing these, you have to get buffs on them. You want to make them as tough as possible, so you're often casting Protection. So that's +1 to your saves, including your invulns. So now we're talking about if you need a tank, you have a 2-up invulnerable save with 3 wounds, actually. They have an extra wound. That's nasty. That's really nasty.
I don't like it.
It's so good.
So I can imagine putting 3 Riptides in this unit and killing nothing.
Nothing.
That would make me very sad. I would just have to not shoot at it, obviously. And that's the thing. You would end up never even rolling for your 2-up save.
Right.
Because everyone would just be like, okay,
it's just a great deterrent
it's
by
over.
itself.
I'm never going to shoot this unit. And I think that's actually a really great ability. And keep in mind, the thing you're giving up here is Expert Hunter, which is just the ability to reroll wounds on monsters or vehicles.
Right.
And that's cool and all, but making this unit almost immune to shooting,
amazing.
that's even better.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, big fan of that.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about Shining Spears.
We're seeing a trend here. The good aspect warriors got better.
It is. It really is. And next we're going to take a look at the epitome of that. So you notice we've only talked about a couple abilities for each of these units. This one, we'll try to go through it fast, but I think all 6 of them are great in different ways.
All 6 of them are playable.
Yeah.
Because you only can pick one, I think we can all tell you which one is the one you're going to get.
That's true.
But all 6 of them are playable.
So we're talking about Crimson Hunters.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't looked
Crimson
at the
Hunter
book yet.
Exarchs in this case. Thankfully, all Crimson Hunters don't get this.
Yeah, it was one of those things I wasn't sure if they would actually do it when I heard they were going to do abilities for Exarchs, and I was like, well, like they're kind of an Exarch on a technicality.
Yeah.
So maybe they won't. No, they did it.
They did it.
They doubled down on it.
The Crimson Hunter Exarch is potentially one of the just most dangerous units in the whole game right now.
Oh yeah.
Right, like
absolutely.
for years now, it has just been dominating all of 40K. And anything you do to make it better is crazy.
I'm just looking at these. I'm kind of just blown away.
Yeah,
It's
and I played
ridiculous.
against 5 Exarchs last night. So three Crimson Hunter Exarchs and just 2 Crimson Hunters.
Oh my goodness.
That was in a game I played yesterday.
Yeah.
And they definitely got better.
That's your bane
I had
too.
a ton of fusion, so I was ready for them.
Yeah.
But that's my fusion that I'm bringing for Iron Hands, but it works on Eldar too.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Fusion is the universal.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
So let's see. Again, we'll try to go fast. Aerial Predator. This is one that they previewed. It's +1 damage against units that have the fly keyword.
Yeah.
Great.
It's cool.
They're already good at killing fly things.
Yeah, this is that example of where if you could tailor it before the game, that would be
It would be just
key.
game breaking.
Yeah, it'd be so good. But because you can't,
Yeah.
it's hard to predict. A lot of things you're going to be coming up against don't have fly.
Exactly.
So
it
hard,
kind of
hard
makes
to pick that one.
It's not the best of great options.
Yeah, right.
The next one is Evade, and that just gives them a 5+ invul. I think that's really interesting.
I actually do too. Because they can die pretty easily once someone gets into them with a fusion.
Exactly.
But the strength of them is the minuses to hit, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, you know what I'm thinking of as a self-proclaimed orc player is the shock attack gun. I will tell you, people live in fear. Eldar players live in fear of that thing.
I think all players live in
I mean,
fear.
everyone does, but Eldar players particularly. I don't even have to roll particularly high to easily kill 1 and very possibly 2 in a turn with a shock attack gun, and this makes that it's not going to happen.
So you agree the shock attack gun should be nerfed?
No, you heard it not here first, GW. I love that thing.
Yeah, I hate that thing. Yeah, so the 5 spin one's good. They don't have that much survivability, and when it comes to things actually getting through to them, so if you're up against an army that can actually hit them, they die. But in my mind, the strength of them is the fact that most armies can't hit them.
Yeah, you're counting on not getting to your armor set.
Yeah, you're counting on the minuses.
agree.
So you're kind of taking almost a win more in some cases. And the armies that can get through to you, this just makes them a little less efficient.
Yeah.
But in those matchups, again, against your Tau commanders, that essentially one Tau commander auto kills one of these planes.
Right.
Maybe they don't. And then you're in trouble.
Exactly. I think this is one that will definitely depend on where you're playing and who you're playing and how the meta
your meta,
changes.
your local meta in a way. Yeah.
This is something that I think we might see adjust as we go through.
Yep.
Let's see, next one, Hawkeye.
I think this is the most popular.
This one's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So there's no penalty for moving and shooting. So most, or at least their big weapons, are heavy. And now there's no minuses for that.
Yeah.
So they already hit on 2s, right?
Yeah, this basically makes it's almost giving it +1 ballistic skill in a way.
Yeah.
You know, so you think this whole unit now hits on 2s. You're taking away its ability to reroll 1s though.
I was just gonna say,
right?
isn't that what
so
we're
that
losing?
is what you're losing.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're making not when you look at the math, it's not insane. You're saying I'm going from hitting on 3s to 2s.
Yeah.
Or I could be hitting on 3s with rerolling 1s.
Right.
And I think ultimately it's a small buff to hit on 2s. Again, that's what the player I played against yesterday had. He had all hitting on 2s. You wouldn't believe the number of 1s he rolled.
Of course.
To hit.
Yeah.
And so it didn't seem like a wise decision in that game. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But I think in most of the time, I think it'll pay off.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if it's worth it, but you can always get an Autark and gain that back, right?
Hard to do, but yes. Hard to stay in range.
Yeah,
that's
true.
the strength of these planes.
Yeah, and that's why I don't. That's why I mentioned. I don't know if it's worth it. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hawkeye, amazing one. Next one, Strafing Assault. Reroll wounds of 1 against non-fly. So it's kind of like Strafing Run, but wound rolls. That's something that's tough to come by.
It is, and they typically have high strength, so they can be winning a lot of things on 2s.
What do you think about this one?
I think it's a good option if we didn't have the better options.
Yeah, exactly.
These planes have so few attacks. Anything that increases the efficiency of them is kind of really necessary.
Yeah.
So often, people are just trying to kill my 5-man squads on objectives. Whatever, some 5-man infantry squad in every army I play, these planes try to kill them and they fail every time.
Yeah.
Because they fail just by like 1 guy. It's just, and they live and die on those rolls of 1.
Exactly.
So I can see it.
I think it's interesting, but yeah, I agree. And it kind of,
yeah.
Against some targets, it's just going to take your efficiency up to 100, where it's already very, very high. So, Eyes of Cain, you ignore cover. Nothing to scoff at.
It's okay.
And the last one,
probably.
That's probably the worst one.
Yeah.
The last one, aerial maneuvering. So now, one of the crazy things about these flyers is the fact that they can rotate twice, right? When you select them to move, you rotate up to 90 degrees.
Yep.
And then after you move them, you rotate up to another 90 degrees.
That's right.
Aerial maneuvering means that on that first move, you can go up to 180 degrees, which
Yeah, so
effectively means it doesn't matter.
Right. And
Right.
you could just do whatever you want at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically hover.
They're just like,
go wherever they want.
whatever, it's fine.
Have you ever played against an Eldar player who basically does this anyways?
I know,
I'd say
right.
most of them kind of are
Some people
fairly
should just
sloppy
be
with it.
forced to take this because they're going to do it anyway.
That's right, yeah.
I won't name any names.
I've
but
seen some people are fairly sloppy with them.
Yeah.
But it's this one is cool, but they're already so maneuverable. They don't need it.
Exactly.
I've rarely seen a person be like, oh man, I can't get my Eldar playing
man.
where I want to get
Yeah,
it.
which is a big disadvantage of the Dark Eldar ones because they actually don't have that.
That's right.
But these ones, they don't really need it.
Yeah.
So,
So it's okay for me. So the plus, or essentially the +1 to hit, which is not ignoring heavy. That's the clear winner
There we
here.
go.
And taking this with your reroll ones to hit. Now we're talking.
Yes, we are. We have a tasty.
Yeah, that's the way.
combination.
That's the way to go.
Yeah. All right. So warp spiders. We won't spend too much time. This is a what used to be the most hated. I don't know why this is my ranking system now, but
Yeah.
In 7th edition they were amazing. We haven't really seen them in 8th. I like the models. They're old sculpt, but I still think they're cool.
Yeah, a little flat like
They're
this,
very
but
flat.
yeah,
Let's see.
they're still good. What do
They
you
have
think for them?
withdraw, so they can withdraw.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of a
they
trend.
have-
They gave that to everyone that was maneuverable, right?
Yeah, again, and like I said, I think the only winner really is the Shining Spears. They're the big winners, the Shining Spears for that
Yeah.
one. This one, not so much. They have Web of Deceit. I think that's an interesting one. It's a once per game redeploy where they can essentially pick them up and re-deep strike them somewhere else.
I like that one actually.
I think it's cool because it takes something that they're already good at
Yeah.
and lets them do it again, right? The only other one worth
Now hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't they pretty much do that already? Like they can move 4d6 plus advance on top of that. Like couldn't they already go anywhere they wanted?
Yeah, they have a ton of movement already.
Yeah, they do. That's true.
This
That's a
is
good point.
bigger. This is bigger though. And
Across
I
the whole board, though. I don't
yeah,
know.
it's a big move. It's a big move. And you could do it. You can imagine hiding them and then very late getting a big jump. We've seen in a lot of competitive missions just being able to get on that objective last turn. Can be game. It could be the whole game, right?
Totally.
It regularly is, way too often. And so I don't know. I think it's a pretty good ability.
I think it's. I mean,
Keep in mind what you're trading that for is the
yes.
ability to reroll failed morale tests for this unit. That's what the XR currently has. Iron Resolve. So when you
my
put it
gosh.
in that terms
right.
of that's the trade you just
Yeah.
made, that seems pretty
That
sweet.
seems worth it. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Not to mention when they do that big jump, they hurt themselves, right?
No, gosh, it's again. This
It's
one's changed
rare.
so much.
It's rare that they do it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's again, and this is sort of side note, but that's my kind of complaint about some of these aspect wars is we're looking at the swooping hawks, the striking scorpions, and now the warp spiders that all fulfill very, very similar roles. And I wish they were just a bit more unique. The only other ability I want to mention on them is surprise assault, and that is on the turn that they do land from deep strike, they reroll all fail to hits. That's cool.
I'm into it.
I'm
Because they also
super
have
into
decent shots.
Yeah, it is decent. So that maybe makes it better, more interesting.
Yeah, because
do with that what
the
you
Death
will.
Spinner is pretty, it's Assault 2, Strength 6.
Yeah, and then they have rending on 6s, right?
Yeah, it's -4 AP on 6s.
Yeah. So
So I think that's pretty, and again, you're replacing an ability that you don't really care about.
yeah, absolutely.
that's-
I would
that's a
do
win.
this every single time.
And actually, I played against an interesting Warp Spiders army, and what they were just trying to do was just pump up the negatives on them. And because LA talk for -1.
Yep.
This unit can have an innate -1.
That's right, yeah.
That's where they take the mortal wounds is on when they do the flicker jump.
Yeah.
And then lightning fast for another -1.
Right.
And just having them in cover there, and they had their whole character army right behind
that's
them,
cool.
and it was the only unit right in front. And I put my entire tower army into them. I killed one model. Most of my army was sitting on 7s. So for what it's worth, that's pretty.
You
fair.
couldn't roll 7s? What's
I
wrong with you?
couldn't. I know. I brought the wrong dice.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cool deal. So that's the aspect warrior X-Arc abilities. Again, the update definitely have some big winners.
Yep.
There's a bunch of ones that we didn't really mention because they're not as powerful or interesting, I'd say.
Yeah.
But definitely, check them out.
A ton of, like, if you're playing narrative games, there's a ton of fun play to have in there, and especially if you're playing some of the narrative missions that come in this book that are very Eldar centric.
Yeah.
You have a lot of fun things you can do, but the ones we told you are pretty much the clear winners. They almost universally made all these units better.
Yeah.
They didn't make them all playable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to what I keep calling successor traits, and I'm basically just using it as a short form for saying this is a way of creating your own craft world where you pick 2 abilities, very much like the Space Marine one.
Yeah,
Just
craft world
there's no other
attributes, they
things.
call them.
Attributes, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
craft world attributes. So you can build your own craft world. I've actually never seen anyone do this, I guess, because there's no reason to do it currently today.
Right now? Yeah, you basically have to.
But anyone who has like a
talk to
custom paint scheme,
Yeah.
now you can say, hey, I'm this, and use it as something.
Exactly.
The existing craft worlds that you see out there, like Ulthway and Aletok mostly, or Sam Hine or whatever for the charges, these are really strong abilities. So picking these, you have a lot to live up to.
Yep.
Right?
There's a lot to compete with.
Yeah, and you have to keep in mind when you pick one of these, you lose all the stratagems.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's the killer here, because if you could say I'm a Sam Hine successor, and now I have these abilities, but I still get the Sam Hine strats.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do that, honestly, with this, because I think that's one of the coolest things about the Space Marine book, is like there's so many layers.
You still get all the
and you can
Ultramarines.
mesh them, yeah.
You get the Ultramarines Doctrine, you get the
choice.
Ultramarines Warlord traits, you can get their relics for points, then you get their strats, and then you pick 2 abilities.
Yeah.
This is just give up everything, relics, everything, and just take 2 abilities.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big downgrade.
It really is. And so I think, we'll talk about some of the key ones. I have some that I think are interesting here. And the way that I see it is it's really, is there a style or a unit that you want to play?
Yeah.
And then you focus on that.
And you can just make a small detachment that maximizes that unit. And I think that's the way you'll do it. Unless, again, for fluff reasons or whatever, you make a whole army that is your own special craft world.
Yeah.
That's rare, I think. But if you're trying to just take one small detachment and use these special abilities to maximize one unit.
Exactly.
Or a group of units.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Children of Cain.
Yep.
I like this one mostly narratively.
Okay.
I'd like to think it could be good, but let's see. So 6 is to wound, give a +1 damage for Aspect Warriors.
Yep.
Sounds really cool, but we also just talked about Aspect Warriors and the issues with them. So that's one I do want to mention because I really like the idea of it. But
if you were doing your little, what is it, Sword Wind, Blade Wind?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then it could be cool, but oh man, tough to make that one work. I think.
I used to play BL10. That was my thing, and I had like the Court of the Young King and everything. So in my heart, that's my mention of Children of Cain. Next one, actually, I think quite interesting one is Hail of Doom. This is for shuriken weapons only, but if you're within 12 inches of your target, you are at an additional -1, which means -1 rend. It does not stack with the 6s when they proc, but that's huge.
Yeah, because that's a big minus for shuriken. Shuriken hit well, lots of shots, no AP.
Exactly.
Right? And other than the minuses, when you hit
get the 6s,
which are good, but just blanket -1 AP, even, we've seen what that's doing to Space Marines right now. It's making them so lethal. So this is by far my favorite one.
Yeah, same.
Especially because I'm loving the Dire Avengers and the Guardians. I think that's good.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think what we should talk about is, was there not a plus? There's an additional range one. I didn't write it down, but I want to mention that now.
Okay.
It's +4 inches to the range of shuriken weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I think one of the things I was most bummed about with infiltrators is the way that they killed some of these cool bombs. Guardian bombs, deep striking with 20 of them in and shooting. And Guardian shuriken catapults only have a range of 12. So you've killed that completely. And this trait, I don't have the name with me, but it gives...
Superior Shurikens.
Superior Shurikens.
Yeah.
Gives you the ability to now actually drop in and clear those screens out and shoot that.
Yeah. Now unfortunately, if you stack this with the other one, you still only have to be within 12 to get the +1.
Yeah. So I really wish you could do both.
Yeah.
I wish it was 13 inches or something, but I think that one's interesting. When I saw that, I said, okay, cool. You can actually play Guardian Bombs again, because otherwise it almost completely negates them.
And realistically, let's say you were taking Guardians or you're taking Dire Avengers.
Yeah.
You're not giving up too much from being an existing craft world, right? Because if you were trying to play a Aletok, well, they already have to get close.
Yep.
Right? And if you were trying to play them as Ulthway, the 6-up is good. It's good.
Yeah.
You're giving up the Black Guardian strat, which is the bigger one.
Yeah.
But
I think
this is an interesting. This is a interesting trade. Funny enough, if you were already doing that, BL10 was probably one of your best bets, just because you get the rerolls.
Yeah, that's fair.
And this is probably better than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to mention that. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you were deep striking Dire Avengers, then you don't care about the infiltrators, anyways. Yeah. So let's see. Headstrong. This is one that we mentioned earlier. In practice, this is +1 to charges. So everything can have an 8-inch charge at a deep strike. Your Shining Spears now have a 7-inch charge.
Yes.
And be at +2 to charge.
Yes.
Ooh, that's pretty tasty.
I'm really into that combination because what you're giving up, is being Sam Hine, which is the advance in charge.
Right.
And that costs you CP. That means you start on the board.
Yep.
Right. This is the whole idea that you're going to keep them safe. You're going to deep strike and charge them in, which is the way that a lot of people used to play them. It means in future turns you're less mobile though. But they're already fast.
Yes and no though, because here's the thing. At least
Well, you still have the pluses to charge.
and you don't have to pay the CP every time.
That's right.
So the same height strat still did cost. So by the later turns,
It added up.
The Yannari player, I mean, say Yannari because he's generally that.
Yeah.
They were like, well, I don't have CP to do it, so I'm slower. But now you're getting a +1 to charge all the time.
You're right.
You know, that's cool. Let's see. I don't know if this one's interesting, but I did mark it down. Masterful shots. You ignore cover. Nothing to scoff at. It's a tougher one to think about, right? Because it seems situational, but cover is a thing. It's useful. That could be essentially another -1 to Ren, basically.
Yeah.
Let's see, Masters of Concealment. I think this is going to be one that could be popular. I know in Space Marines it is. This is, you count as being in cover if you're more than 12 inches away when being shot at. So
it's good. And it seems like that's kind of the way they're trying to handle instead of the minuses to hit.
Yeah.
And I think, you can see they're kind of making that harder to obtain as a Space Marine player with the Raven Guard losing that a bit. And I think that we're probably going to see that too in late talk. And I think what you should think is when you look at this book, you see the way they're thinking for the future Eldar books.
Yeah.
It's not definitive, but these traits will be some of the building blocks of how they've rebuilt some of the craft worlds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last one I really want to talk about is one that takes up both of your slots. So you don't get anything else. It's called Strike and Fade.
Strike and Fade, for sure.
You fall back, and you can still charge. So you're like semi-Harlequins. And that just has... Honestly, I definitely haven't thought of all the uses of it, but I think there's some really, really cool stuff. Obviously, Shining Spears are a big winner. Some of these like harassing melee units are actually much more interesting now. And there's some interesting, really, aggressive builds that you could work with this.
This actually has 2 abilities. It also has this weird one where you do not have to consolidate near the nearest to the closest model, as long as that individual model was not within 3 inches of any minute. It's one of the most contrived things.
Yeah.
So think of it this way. You're in combat, but some of your models are stringed back outside of 3 inches. Now they're allowed to consolidate in any direction they want.
Yeah.
Hard to work with, but you can imagine doing weird things where you take a unit that has now the extra ability to fall back. And so you do this charge, where you string only one model into combat, and all the rest now consolidate upwards and then fall back way up out of combat. And it's a lot of movement. It is a lot of movement, and you can do some weird stuff with it. You can wrap up some things like crazy because now you're moving around some other unit, and then it's crazy.
There's definitely a lot of weird things you can do with it. And I know it sounds strange when we're like describing it like that. You're like, is that really what they wanted to do? It totally is. It's called Strike and Fade. They want you to do weird things with it and combine these in interesting ways. It's very Eldar. And I don't think we've thought about all the possibilities yet. I would definitely want to highlight that. There's something in there that's going to be really cool.
It's helping you get wraps really well. Like this would be one of the easiest ways to get wraps.
Yeah, it's great.
So it could be cool. Yeah.
That's successor traits. There are more.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
Yeah. Briefly, the runes. So these are the new spells.
Yeah.
One of the coolest
things
about it...
It's like a new spell tree.
It is a new spell tree, right?
It's 6 new spells.
But it only is used as a replacement for Smite.
Yes, on any Psyker,
any of them.
Any Craft World Psyker.
Yeah,
so your Spirit Seers, your Warlocks, your Farseers.
Those really lame, like 1 damage Smites.
Yeah.
Don't have to take them anymore. I don't think anyone's going to take them anymore unless you're running a full Conclave.
Exactly. So this is really cool, and you can pick these at the table just like Psychic Powers.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And this is a really fluffy way to really demonstrate that the Eldar are superior Psychers, right? They just have kind of more options.
They're just innately psychic and have all these things that we don't know about.
I'm into that.
Yeah. So my favorite, I have a couple favorites. I really like this trait. Witch Strike.
Oh, okay.
On the Psyker.
You like this one?
I'll explain why.
Okay.
As long as and correct me in chat if this is. Bridger's shaking my head. Does this not work?
On Conclave?
It definitely does not work.
Definitely does not work on Conclave.
Like, super doesn't work.
So, okay, so let's talk about this one, because this is getting
so let's explain it before we... Yeah. No, go ahead.
So, on a 4-up, it allows you to add 2 damage to the characteristic of this Psyker's melee weapons.
Now, mind you, he says 4-up. That's Warp Charge 4. It's on 2 dice.
Yeah. That's right. It's a Warp Charge. So, it's easy to get up.
That's a feature of actually everything in this tree, we should say, and they talk about it in the book. They're all really low casts.
Yeah.
So
they're replacements for Smite, and a lot of times they're even easier.
Exactly. So I'll present what I was thinking, and then you guys can talk about that.
Yeah,
so with Warlock Conclave, it's a unit. It's not a single model. They're all a Psyker. The question is, do they get +2 damage on each of them as if they were the Psyker? So you guys are saying no. So let's talk about this.
It seems unlikely. I think it says it says this psyker, and I don't think, you're basically saying that it's the individual unit. But when you were if you were like casting a smite, you have to still pick a model.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's basically what's happening here. It's still a model casting it. You can choose one, it'll get it. It's the way it's worded is very clear, like this psyker. It's not this psyker's unit, this psyker. It's clearly applying to a singular rather than an entire unit. And I could see where people might want to debate it, and there's absolutely room to debate. It certainly doesn't feel like that would be their intent by any stretch. In my opinion on this.
I think by my stretch.
I mean, I think a Warp Charge 4 spell to give 10 Warlock Conclaves flat 3 damage,
But
it seems unlikely.
Is it really so crazy to give that to a 600-point unit?
I don't think that you should be playing a 600-point unit. That's already crazy.
All right.
But there's some other really good things in here.
Yeah,
that
for
one's
sure.
bound to cause some conflicts. I think we should acknowledge that.
I think they definitely need to clarify it.
And I think they will. They will. And if enough people make fuss about it, they will. I'll personally be playing it as just one model. I think that sounds reasonable.
I definitely would want to clarify this before I take it to any sort of event with the intent to use it, right?
I think so.
Because you don't want to have that come up. So I think another great one, Ghost Walk.
Yeah.
This one is ridiculous.
This one is the best one.
It's it's on a target unit, has to be within 6 inches, so that's short, so you need someone that can follow, but it gives that unit +2 to charge.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we just got our Shining Spears for +4 to charge out of Deep Strike.
Amazing.
Yeah, we did.
That's so good.
That is so good.
That's so great.
Now they're charging on a 5 out of Deep Strike.
Yeah, that is bananas.
I'm into this. And this is just a free thing, replace your 1 damage smite.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't have to and this casts on a 6.
Yeah, it's on a 6.
So it's still very, very reasonable. Another thing is, I know some people are very excited about like Wraith Blades and things like that, because they're so slow. Anything that can help get them up the field is great,
Yeah.
They still have to get there in the first place, but it's a big deal for that too.
I agree. This is always good. +2 to charges, always good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you cast it on a Wave Serpent that needs to make a little charge to tie up a tank.
That's right.
It's always good.
That's right.
This is good.
Yeah.
And Eldar Psychers have plenty of ways to be fast.
Yeah, exactly. That's
so this isn't a problem, and again, it's replacing your 1 damage smite.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
This is a free win. This is big. I'm into this.
Well,
You're going to see armies built around this.
Oh, absolutely.
Whole strategies built around this.
Absolutely.
It's that good.
Yeah.
One of the best things in the whole book for the Eldar, actually.
Yeah.
Because you lose nothing, you gain something very
It's
powerful.
one of those things that's like not even up for debate. I think a lot of these were saying, well, maybe we can use it this or maybe that, but this one is just good.
Yep, really into it.
The last one I have marked down is Impair Senses.
Okay.
I love this one because it's sort of reverse Phobos shenanigans, where you target on an enemy unit within 18.
Yep.
I don't think it has to be the closest.
I don't
visible.
think so. Yep.
And that unit can only target the closest visible unit.
Yeah.
So again,
that could be a Wave Serpent.
It could be a Wave Serpent. Be like, nobody wants to shoot at a Wave Serpent.
Nobody.
Well, that's what you got to do now, bud.
That's
Sorry.
right.
Like, you could do some really, really cool things and be very mean to people. And 18 inches is a very respectable distance, especially for Eldar.
And this could be anything. This could be a knight.
be a
double
knight.
Gatling cannon knight.
Yeah.
Right? That has to reduce its damage by 1 on your Wave Serpent.
Wave Serpent, which you could make -1 to hit or whatever. Might already be -1 to hit because it's 18,
exactly.
it's not 12.
Force them to shoot up your 2-up Invuln Shining Spears.
I love it.
with their Castellan Knight or something. You know what I mean? This would be so mean.
Now this one I think takes a little bit more finesse than +2 to charge. Yeah, and what is the closest? And can they move? But if you play it well,
because they can move, right?
Yeah,
you have to be cautious.
It's not an autoplay spell, but I think it's an amazing spell.
It's an amazing spell. Absolutely.
It's very Eldar too, because you have to be. It's all about positioning.
Yes.
And now it's about your opponent's positioning as much as it is about yours.
I absolutely agree with that. I'm really, really into this spell.
Big fan.
Those two, Ghost Walk and Impair Senses, are my absolute favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the bulk of the Craft World Eldar things. If you guys have questions, we can definitely answer them afterwards, unless Bridger has anything you want to flag before I move on to the next factions.
Can I just clarify? The Hemlock also gets these powers? It replaces its smite as well?
I think it might actually.
Well,
they're weird with the psychic, right? Because they say, for example, you only get the runes of battle, and you only get the offensive versions.
So it basically says that it can attempt to deny and cast, and it knows smite in 1 psychic power from the runes of battle.
Oh yeah,
that's the Hemlock.
Yeah, totally.
So that means the Hemlock would get this as well. It's a lot easier to get that Hemlock with an 18 of something in the backfield.
Oh yeah.
And now that Hemlock can shut down shooting.
That's super cool.
On something else.
That's super cool.
Maybe make them have to shoot at a plane that you're now going to make -3 to hit.
Right.
Right?
I'm just double checking. Yeah, it all checks out.
Yeah, it all checks out.
That's super cool.
I think that's an interesting stack, right? Like you've got a Hemlock there, could be at -3 to hit. Now you're forcing some big knight to shoot at it or something.
Yeah, no, yeah,
that sucks.
Exactly. Ooh,
yeah.
I'm glad you found that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Bridger?
Okay, so in terms of chat questions, pretty much everyone's curious, like how are Eldar going to change? Like, does this change the face of Eldar? And then there's a lot of questions about Drukhari, so we'll get to those soon.
We are going to do Drukhari.
So Drukhari's coming up right now, but just before we jump in, let's try to address that. I think as far as how is Eldar going to change, I think almost not much at all, right? This book, as far as Craft World Eldar goes, minor efficiency gains. People aren't going to rewrite their lists, I don't think. I think the list that they have just got a little better, little better. Not by much, though, really.
I mean, Crimson Hunters are a big deal, and they're way better.
Well, I think, as we said, it's modestly better unless you're taking both abilities, right? Like losing reroll ones but getting +1 to hit is only a small percentage change.
That's fair. That's fair.
All things considered.
Yeah.
And if you're paying to take both, that's great, and they are a little better. But they were already wrecking you, or they weren't.
Right. Exactly.
They were already something you could handle, or you couldn't.
Very true.
So to me, it's not a big win. You could see us getting the most excited about these plus to charge combos.
Yes.
Because that's the only thing I could see people changing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And I think in a lot of cases, unfortunately, what this does is help regain things that have been lost, right? So like Shining Spears took a big hit with the changes to Ynnari. Like I said, Guardian Bombs took a big hit with Infiltrators. And I think what this lets you do is, if you're particularly interested in one of those, or just in your list if they're already there, it can give you some potential to gain those abilities back and make them viable again. You know?
Yeah, and in my mind, if we got a little bit excited about building a Shuriken detachment. That's okay, but it's not like, again, compared to how a Space Marine's going to shoot you.
Well, that's
like
another big problem.
This is not that scary.
Yeah.
And also Shuriken, Black Guardians and things like that were already excellent, right? Those Guardians were already super strong.
Yeah.
So those are, to me, those are modest improvements.
Right.
On the units, you didn't usually build an army around Shuriken. You built Shuriken was a nice thing tacked on.
Yeah.
But it was almost never the center, and it's still not good enough to be the center of your army.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, the plus to charge combo is the only thing worth thinking about as like a change to the way your army functions today.
It gets me a bit excited about the eventual book, because I like the directions as far as
I love the creativity, the angles that they're thinking about to improve the army.
Yeah. Power level, they can fix that, and they have done that. We've seen that. So it gives me confidence. I know some of it's a bummer, but overall, I think it could be cool.
Yeah.
But
now, Drukhari, we're about to move on to. Drukhari did improve. And there's legitimate things you're going to want to change and do.
Yeah.
And so let's jump into that. And I think one of the first things I want to touch on is Drazhar.
Oh, you mean Drazhar, Master Blades?
That's what I mean.
You have to say his whole name, and you have to say it like that every time.
So not only is it a phenomenal model, and it really is.
Yeah, he's gorgeous.
It's a really beautiful model. You should all just buy it. I don't care what army you play, just buy it.
I'll just take the check from GW.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, really, it's gorgeous.
Such a nice model.
Yeah.
But he is crazy good. I played against him yesterday, and he is so strong. Unlike Janezar, he gets 6 attacks instead of 4, and he fights twice automatically. He fights twice. So 12 attacks, right? The guy gets +1 to wound, and he innately does 2 damage instead of D3.
Amazing.
Which is what Janezar does. And on 6s to wound, he does double damage, 4 damage. That adds up so fast. Just a couple 6s. He gives all the incubi around him +1 to wound. Not so big. But he's an incubi, so he gets that +1. He's great, and he's cheap. He's not that much, 120 points. I know it's not that cheap, but he's crazy good.
Well, plus, often Drukhari players are saying they need HQ choices.
They're short for HQ choices.
There's really not many options.
Right, and he's unaligned, so he could go in any of your attachments.
Nice. That's cool.
Right, so you don't need to take 2 homunculus.
I didn't notice that, yeah.
Throw him in 1 homunculus with like Urian or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
All right now. So for me, I don't, maybe this is a little too bold of a comment. I think this guy is an auto-include in like 100% of Drukhari armies because they're so short on HQs.
Yeah, I agree.
And he is just so reliable as a unit killer, as a character killer, elite killer. He's got it all.
That's the thing looking at his profile is he's really good at killing everything.
Everything.
Good rend, good damage. He's only strength 4, but he's +1 to wound.
And he's got the invulnerable save.
And he has the invulnerable save.
He has all the things that we wanted on Janezar.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm happy for Drazhar Master Blades, but I also wanted Janezar to have it.
Yeah. We were laughing before because Warhammer Community did an article where they had them fighting each other, and they said, oh, they're equally matched. I don't know what math they were using, but like in our mind, it's a pretty easy win for the Drukhari here.
Yeah.
But with the Drukhari, they also released the Incubi.
Yep.
And the Incubi suffer similarly to Aspect Warriors in the sense that they can hit hard. Yeah. And in fact, I'd say these hit harder than almost any of the Aspect Warriors, other than maybe Shining Spears.
Yeah.
But they're so fragile, right? And they're so fragile for how many points they are apiece. And they're more or as much as a Primaris Marine. And they're just a little too fragile. Now, can they hit hard? Yeah. And you can make it work. You could put a bunch of them in a Raider with this, with Drazar. They could jump out, +1 to wound. They can put the hurt on something.
Yeah.
They just can't take it back. Yeah. The question is, are you going to hurt something so bad that you made your points back or got your worth out of them? And I would say in many games you could. You could.
Yes.
But you'd be forcing that strategy.
Yeah.
You'd be making that work just because the models are awesome, and they really are.
They're gorgeous models.
Yeah.
I think the problem is because the way that they're set up right now and the points cost and the profile, they compete for things like things like Mandrakes in a brigade, for example.
Sure.
Because they're both elite slots, but Mandrakes are cheaper. They're similar. They're fragile, but they can hit hard with mortal wounds, and so there's this awkwardness. Deep strike. And they deep strike,
which is actually how most people use them.
Yeah.
Just jump and hide over there.
These need to be cheaper or hit way harder or just be tougher. Am I crazy? Did they not used to have a 2-up armor save in a previous edition? Wasn't Incubi armor 2-up?
Maybe.
Yeah. They need one of these things.
They're not durable enough.
They're not.
Yeah, they're not durable enough. I think, if you really wanted to put one Raider with like 9 of them and Drazar, you could do it.
They're some of the coolest models in the game.
You could do it. Go buy the models. They're beautiful models. Maybe run it once in a while. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
I think that, if they find the right target, they're going to be great. They're going to be really great. But again, they can't do everything.
No.
Okay, so let's jump in. Much like the Craftworld Eldar, we've got some new obsessions here for Witch Cults, for Homunculus Covens, and for Cabal.
Right.
And there's less for each, right? Because there's kind of one page for each.
Right.
So it seems like less overall, but it's basically the same number. And some of these are actually more interesting than the Craftworld ones, particularly the Coven, the Homunculus Coven.
Definitely.
So we're going to talk about a few of those, but let me just go through them in order. We'll start with the Cabal.
Sounds good.
And the Cabal, you've got to remember what you have today, right? What you have today is already pretty good. You have Blackheart, right, which is already pretty good, and that's nothing to sneeze at. And so you got to remember what you're giving up. And again, you are giving up your strats, you are giving up your relics, you're giving up your special characters, etc. But you do get a couple interesting things here. So you've got, well, really, you've only got one interesting, in my opinion. I'm over talking here.
I was going to say,
you've got Toxin Crafters, which is +1 damage for your poison weapons on 6s to wounds. And this is fun. This is fun.
Right.
It's not great.
Okay.
And the one thing that makes it rough is I can't think of a single second good one to pair it with in this list.
Yeah.
So Cabal are getting it the weakest here. But hey, that's fine. Just play one of your existing Cabals. You don't have to, you could stick with Flayed Skull if you want to, right?
Yes, totally.
Flayed Skull is excellent. Stick with Flayed Skull or Blackheart. Those are, the two I like. And if you really wanted to pick a second one here, I'm hard pressed.
It's really rough
to force a second one on you. Toxin Crafter is the only one here that I actually think is really interesting.
Do you think there's any potential? And this actually goes for the Eldar as well. Webway Raiders has any potential?
Yeah. So this every Craftworld has this, but then so does Drukhari. It basically allows you to use the Webway Strike stratagem more times. One more time, right? Which is 6 units now you can have, or 4
it's
units?
one more per battalion.
One more per
or
battalion.
detachment you have. Sorry.
So you could put more in reserve.
You could put up to 5 in reserve.
So much of the game that I'm seeing right now has people screening out the board so early with scouts and infiltrators and things like that, that more and more your army in reserve doesn't seem to be working right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think my trouble with these is, unlike a lot of the ones that are already in the book, they are fairly specialized, right? So like Cabal of Blackheart is just an all-around flexible trait, right? And that goes for a few of the other ones that are already in there. It's just no matter what unit it is, it's most likely going to help in some way. This is like poison weapons. Obviously, there's a lot of poison weapons, but there's also units that don't have that or whatever. That's one of my big issues with it.
It's not all doom and gloom.
No.
I'm going to show you how you can mix up some Flayed Skull with some Coven and do some fun stuff. So Witch Cults, Again, you're giving up Red Grief, which is advance and charge, or you're giving up Cult of Strife for +1 attack on the charge. Those are both good. Okay, but let me tell you what you could get. You could get Acrobatic Display.
Okay.
Right? Which, when you're within 1 inch of an enemy, it's +1 to your invuln save.
That's pretty cool.
Right? So you could be going down to this 3-up invuln save with your witches in combat. Yeah, that's cool, especially because you stick them in combat, they can't fall back, and now they're trapped there, and now you're durable, which you weren't very durable before. Now you can really make that work, and in the long haul, you still have enough attacks to make it work. And so giving up the extra attack, okay, the advance and charge, that's a big one, but hey, you throw these things in transports. You throw them in Raider. You already have Raiders, which are amazing transports.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that that's actually worth taking, and that's just one. The other one is you could take, there's actually several others you could take, but I like Berserk Fugue, which gives you the Death to the False Emperor ability. It's basically 6s just give you an extra attack. So basically, I'm trying to claw back some of those extra attacks I just lost from losing Cult of Strife, and with getting the durability of the acrobatic display. So for me, those two in combination, I'm really, really into them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it kind of comes back to this idea of making these units do what they already want to do better. Right?
Exactly.
Witches are fantastic at tying units up.
That's what they want to do.
That durability, that's where they want to be. And they will do that, and that's great. And then give them a bit more of a blender ability while still keeping that. Right?
Exactly.
So I totally agree.
Yeah. So for me, that's my favorite combination there.
I like that a lot.
And I think that's a fair trade for both of those abilities. Now, if you were trying to play some of the bikes or the Hellions or something, giving up advance and charge for those is crazy because they start on the board. They wanted to move all the way across the board and charge. If that was your tactic, you couldn't give that up.
No.
But if you're talking about actual like witches on foot, throw them in a Raider, which you were already doing, then this is great. You don't mind losing that ability.
Yeah, exactly. And it's to a max of 3, right? They do say that? Because there are things like the Succubus.
It is to a max of 3.
Max of 3, okay.
It is to a max of 3.
Just trying to make sure we're not missing anything.
Yeah, it's right at the top there.
Maximum of 3, cool.
Yeah.
Which is weird they didn't say that for the Eldar, but
Maybe
like I said, there's a bias.
They really don't like 2+ invulns in the game, so anytime they crop up, you have to be suspicious if they forgot, if they missed it.
Yes, definitely. Well, that's kind of the first one we've seen for a long time now, so I am curious.
Other than an Archon.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, but Archon is
a little different. It's a special tool.
You know they're going to fail it on the first roll anyway, so it's whatever.
I always count on it. I always just shoot one bolt pistol at it.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, you save all your big weapons because you know the bolt pistol is going to knock it out.
That's right.
So.
I've had so many Drukhari players so scarred that they always just take it on their armor save. They're like, I can't do it. It's breaking my heart.
Right. Or flamers, right? It's like, all right, here's all these flamer saves. Like, I'm gonna just do. I have to do one at a time, but like it should be fine. I apologize. It's gonna take a while. Roll the one. They're like, okay, I guess we'll just.
Yeah. Oh man, flamers. We're gonna see my salamanders later today, and that's gonna be crazy.
Awesome.
Okay, so Coven obsessions. Already. Coven were amazing, and this was largely powered by Prophets of Flesh.
Yep.
That 4+ invuln army-wide is amazing. So that's pretty big shoes to fill.
It's a tough one to,
pretty big shoes to fill. But I think we can do it.
You do?
Yes. Okay. So, but I think you have to build around it. So if you were taking a big bunch of grotesques, keep going with Prophets of Flesh. That's the way you want to play. Don't give up the invuln, my man. Don't do it.
No.
If you're taking a bunch of you want some rack squads and you just want them to be invincible and just stand there, don't do it. Keep the 4-up invuln. But if you're willing to play in a very abusive way,
hear what you're taking that.
then in a way that's not really in the spirit of Homunculus Coven, then you could do something really strong. And so it's a combination of dark technomancers. This allows you to overcharge any weapon.
Right.
So you could choose to overcharge it like a plasma, and it gets +1 to wound and +1 damage. And on a 1 to wound, you take a mortal wound to the unit. So let's put this in. What is the obvious unit for this? It's Talos, right? Cool. Talos are already durable enough that they can actually survive losing the 4-up. They're plenty durable enough. And getting that haywire off on a 3-up and then the mortal wounds on a 5-up, that's scary. The extra damage, super scary. So that's already amazing.
Yeah.
But what if you put this on a Venom? You can have a Homunculus Cult Venom, right? Which is not something you see very often, but you can do it. It's allowed. And now you have +1 to wound on all your poisons. Your poisons on 3-up, and then you have 2 damage poison. Ouch. And yeah, you're taking a few wounds on your Venoms. You don't care. Right? Oh, you took a wound on your Venom. You took 2 wounds on your... You don't care. And so that, you imagine a bunch of Primaris Marines running around. Okay, but hold on, this was just one of the 2 abilities. The second one that we're taking is, Experimental Creations. This is +1 strength across the army.
Oh, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's +1 to wound against anything with lower toughness. It's again, this is shooting only. And this is with your poison weapons. And so what you've got is now your Venoms again, wounding on 2s.
That's amazing.
Because they're T5.
Yeah.
So most of the time when you're shooting at almost any infantry in the game, they're T4 or below. And so you're going to be wounding on 2s, 2 damage against like a Space Marine.
That's bananas.
That is bananas. This is, you imagine you had 10 Venoms.
Right.
Ouch.
As you do.
As you do.
Player.
Okay, but now you're saying, okay, I've got 10 Venoms. What have I got inside them? I'm going to put a bunch of racks inside? No. You can put Cabalites inside a Homunculus Venom. That's the way it's written.
Yeah.
Venom can carry any Drukhari infantry regardless of its alignment. So then you take a detachment of Flayed Skull.
Yeah.
Put a bunch of really good poison Cabalites in there.
Yeah.
Now you got a bunch of Homunculus Venoms running around that are wounding on 2s, doing 2 damage. And then you got some Talos as well.
Right.
Yeah,
of course, the Talos are great for it.
You got some Talos back there. Now you've got to do some juggling to make this detachment work, because you need to unlock the 10 Venoms, which means you need to have a detachment with 10 other units in it. So you'll have to take like 2 characters, Drazar, Homunculus, 6 rack squads, 6 min rack squads, and then maybe some min Talos squads. You could do it, get a bunch of Venoms, then build the rest of your army. I don't think that this is just a thought experiment. I think that you will see this army.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with the prevalence of Space Marines, it really goes hard on them.
Deal.
Yeah, it goes hard on them. Now, no AP still, but this was something they already lived with. At least now when the shot goes through, they die. And if you're used to playing Drukhari, winning on 4-ups across your army was not good. Think of that as what happens when it goes to 2-ups.
Yeah.
It's big.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I actually think that this combination alone is really scary and legitimately going to change a bunch of people's armies. There's another one in here that I see a lot of talk about, which is Artists of Flesh.
Yeah.
That's the -1 damage army-wide.
Right.
You can't pick another trait with this one, because I guess they think this one's too good. And that is not better than Prophets of Flesh, because you think about which unit do I want this on, and it's Grotesques, and like Talos.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best way to prevent damage? It's not ignoring 1 damage, it's 4 pinball. Because, you got all these bolters coming into them these days, which are 1 damage anyways. They're hitting them with a las cannon. You want the 4-up. You don't want to just -1 from their 6 damage roll.
Yep.
You want to negate all
Totally.
6. So that one is not interesting. And I know a lot of people are there, but you could do the math anyway. It's not going to save you more.
It's a cool idea, but it's in the right direction, but not
if they
in the
had
right
an
way.
army of 2 wound models, they would. They would be interesting. But they have the racks. Which just aren't, it's just not enough.
Yeah, and that feel and pain is not high enough to make that tempting.
Exactly. The feel and pain is not good enough. Yeah. So those are the obsessions for all of Drukhari.
Yeah.
You could see that I think it'll affect witches. I think it'll affect Coven. I don't think it's going to affect Cabal. And I think you're going to see Drazar everywhere.
Drazar, Master of Blades.
That's right.
Now, we did have a question about Test of Skill, which is +1 to wound against 10 + wound targets.
Yeah, this is a Witch Cult one. I saw this one. So this is pretty good. And the reason I didn't speak up about this one, just as it says, it's complete. It's just +1 wound against anything with 10 wounds. I think it does have to be vehicle or monster, 10 wounds or more. It's totally good because this is something witches can't do today.
Right.
So you're giving them an ability they don't have, and you could take that instead of the exploding 6s.
Yeah.
And totally interesting. I usually think of them as being better at I put them in the army as that horde clearing. And so I was kind of optimizing for that build. But that can work too. Imagine you wrap something like a dreadnought or something big, and now you're trying to stick in combat with it. But now, at least over the long haul, you could chip away at it.
Right. Well, and especially if you're interested in playing all witch cults or more witch cults, then that says, okay, well, if this is your tool set, now that tool's going to be better against more things, right?
Yeah.
It helps fill that gap in that kind of that role.
Yeah. So I was just trying to pick my top 2, but that's definitely in my top 3.
Yeah.
That's the other big one for me. Yeah, I'm super into that one.
I'm glad to see that they can actually have an impact, because I think it's interesting. I think this is a great army. I really like Drukhari. So I would love to see just more ways to play them, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think the Drukhari players would as well.
You want to touch briefly on the Ynnari changes?
Yeah, so it's going to be really fast. There's nothing, no. There's basically nothing.
Very little.
If you went out and bought the White Dwarf when they did the big Ynnari update.
Right. This is almost a
that's all you have to
reprinting.
do.
It's almost a reprinting.
It's almost completely reprint. Couple of reductions. The big thing is the Incarn is now 280 points.
Yes, that's a 50-point reduction?
57. It was
57.
337 before. That's big. That's a big deal.
Yeah, because the Incarn was like still already pretty good.
Yeah.
It was just too expensive.
It was a lot of points to lose if you misplayed it all, right?
Yeah.
And it's still a lot of points to lose if you misplay it all. But that's a big change. That makes them much more tempting. So that's a big change with that. Other than that, Yvraine got a slight reduction. She lost a wound.
Minor changes.
Yeah,
Not
minor
gonna change
changes.
how it plays on the board.
So not too much to talk about Ynnari. You know, we might do a separate thing later on just to talk about Ynnari. But as far as updates from this book, there isn't really much else.
Ynnari is still really in a weird place, hard to play because it's still the whole idea is combat based, and you know there's just not really great units to build off of.
Yeah, I'm bummed honestly because of you lose runes of battle, you don't get the other traits and things like that. So we've seen actually some really cool melee stuff for Craft World Eldar.
Yeah.
That again makes it less tempting for this.
Yeah.
Although, and I guess the one thing I'll state, because of the Incarn dropping, if you don't know, if you haven't bought the White Dwarf, you now do not have to become a Ynnari army.
That's right.
You can essentially add any of the 3 Ynnari heroes to a detachment.
That's right.
And you can say they're going to become a Ynnari detachment, or you can just have them in there, right?
Yeah.
And so that's actually one of the more popular builds for people who were playing Ynnari before, where it was to do things like lots of venom and just put the Incarn in there, put them in an army that is going to have lots of things that will die, and just let you play those characters that you like. So, you know, if you haven't seen that, that's a really cool way that you could combine this with these other new things, the new obsessions, the new Craft World stuff, and check it out.
Yeah. So we've basically gone over everything in the book. We didn't touch on the custom missions.
No.
And there's some custom narrative missions. There's actually some rules for playing on a Eldar Maiden world, which is actually pretty cool. Basically means that like your units just continuously get healed.
Oh, that's
every
cool.
turn, and models that are dying come back to life.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. These worlds are super magical, clearly.
If the Eldar have such a population, never mind.
No, whatever. It's actually got a cool rule. If a vehicle explodes on the maiden world, all the like Eldari characters just go insane.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they just get so angry that the maiden world has been violated, and they get like extra attacks and stuff. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So they're fun. I really think if you're looking for some fun narrative reports, play with some of those Eldar rules. But overall, you can see the book has, in my opinion, pretty big impact on Drukhari. You're going to see that not so much on the way the army plays for Craft World, but it will definitely have rules that you see in almost every single Craft World army.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
Because you'll have the new psychic powers in almost every single build. You'll have the new Exarch powers in almost every single build. So every single Craft World Eldar player will use these rules, I think.
Yep.
I just don't think it's going to transform their army overnight.
Yeah, totally agree.
And nothing for Ynnari other than the points drop, which you don't need to get the book to get the points drop. So I think that overall it's an interesting supplement. I really, more than anything, I love the look into the game designer's mind of where the game might be going and how they might be trying to personalize these codexes and make them feel different yet strong. And it's clear they're just layering more rules, which is both good and bad. It gives a lot more personalization, which we're seeing with the Space Marines. So much personalization, but it's a lot. It's a lot of rules. And actually, the thing I worry about, it's a lot for your opponent. Eldar already do a lot of wacky stuff. And if you don't know what Eldar is, and it's come up, it's like, I have 8 Exarchs, and they all have different abilities. This one has 2, this one has 2. It's like, okay, what? Which has what?
Right.
Oh, you have an extra psychic power now that does that? It's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
So that part is difficult, but overall, I think it's a lot of fun. I think most people were hoping they made Eldar a little bit stronger in reaction to the Space Marines.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened here yet.
Not enough.
That hasn't happened here yet, but overall, good release. Okay. Well, yeah, again, thanks a lot for checking out this first supplement review that we've done. We kind of put this together quickly because we wanted to be on time for you to, if you're going out trying to decide whether you want to get this book or not. And of course, you're going to see this book in play all the time now. It's going to be at SoCal Open, which we're going to.
Made the cutoff.
And if you're coming out to SoCal Open, come say hi. Bridger and I are going to be there playing our armies. Unfortunately, Adrian can't make it. He's got
this year.
More important things to do. And for real, I'm not being facetious. And please check out our next live battle report coming up this week. We're actually going to be using the rules from this supplement. So if you're excited about the supplement, we're going to be playing a Craft World army that it's actually a Ynnari, I guess, a mixture.
It actually has a bit of everything. We're definitely going to see some of the new power stuff, new Exarch abilities. We wanted to make sure, so we imported an Eldar player just for you guys.
Yeah, we're bringing in our good friend Jesse, who plays
That's
Eldar,
right.
and going to be playing against Adrian and his orcs, and so you're going to get to see them in action. So come around then Thursday, 6 p.m., and check out their report. We hope to see you then.